We're in the thick of fantasy football draft season, but week one, right around the corner. Only got a handful of drafts left. Want to talk today about 4 players I wish I drafted more of this season. FOMO guys, players I'm terrified I'm going to be missing out on this season. All right, we'll start with T. Higgins in Cincinnati. So I have a few shares of Higgins here and there, but by and large, if I'm looking for a receiver in that range, I've been clicking on Jackson Smith and Jigba more often. Sometimes I'm looking for a second running back there. I have way more James Cook than I would like to admit, really just trying to dodge that next tier of running backs if possible. Anyway, my concern with T. Higgins lies primarily in the injury history. Missed 5 games last season, missed 5 games the year before. Feels like he's always banged up. He's always playing through something. Now, he did say this offseason his focus is on injury avoidance. Not sure what that means, but we'll take it at face value. Hopefully that improves. There's also the presence of a true alpha number 1, the best receiver in the NFL on his own roster in Jamar Chase. So in your mind, you're thinking, yeah, it probably limits his upside, and maybe to a degree it does. But Higgins still finished as the wide receiver 6 in per game PPR production a year ago, despite playing all those games alongside Jamar Chase. We're talking games of 20, 29, 30, 40 fantasy points over the course of the season. The splash weeks were still there. Both guys were able to eat in that offense. And look, we've seen a couple of preseason games now from the Cincinnati Bengals. Offense looks fine. Defense, not so much. After watching that defense in the preseason, I see no reason why this team won't be involved in a ton of shootouts. Feels like it's going to be a race to 30, 35 points every single week for the Bengals. They're going to have to put up points to hang in games. Ultimately, there's a reason Chase, Higgins, Burrow, and Chase Brown all go in the first 40 picks in most drafts. So still got a couple more drafts remaining. I'm coming around to the idea that I need to get some more T. Higgins in my life. Before we get to the rest of the list, you see it right there on your screen. Put in that code YouTube15, 15% off anything we offer over at RotoWire.com. Become a subscriber. You get access to our app. You can access the mock draft tools, the draft simulator, everything you need to dominate your leagues this season. Use that code YouTube15. Next on the list, we have another receiver, Mike Evans. Now, Mike Evans is a unique case for me. I have been the anti-Mike Evans guy all summer. And look, I haven't necessarily changed my tune on that. I'm really concerned about the injury risk, the relative lack of receivers who put up elite seasons at age 32. It happens. It doesn't happen very often. Those concerns are still there. But hey, what if I'm wrong? I'm wrong all the time. And, I've started to wonder, maybe I need to fade myself every now and then. I've been taking Devontae Adams over Mike Evans. Sometimes that could be a George Kittle spot. If you're looking to lock in that third tight end, could be an early quarterback spot. Really, you have options in that pick 40 to 45 overall range. But it's looking more and more like Chris Godwin is going to miss not one game, but multiple games to begin the year. On top of that, Jalen McMillan looks like he's heading to IR. We might not see him until midseason. So circumstances have changed in Tampa Bay. Even though I have high hopes for Chris Godwin once he comes back, I don't think he's going to be a total non-factor this season. We could be looking at a month, maybe more than a month, where the Tampa Bay passing game runs through Mike Evans and it runs through Emeka Egbuka. If you had asked me a month or two ago when the outlook for Chris Godwin was much rosier, didn't love the cost on Mike Evans, again, just concerned about the age, the lack of guys who've really produced at a high level at age 32. But things have changed in Tampa Bay. I'm a lot more interested in the upside, especially early in the season, on Mike Evans than I was back in June and July. The lone running back on our list, DeAndre Swift of the Chicago Bears. So for me, Swift has been one of those guys I'll click on every now and then, but never fired up about it. You're not thrilled to plug in DeAndre Swift as your second, maybe your third running back. He's in the back end of that running back dead zone where I'm just not all that interested in a lot of those guys, Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, etc. But the more I think about the situation for DeAndre Swift in Chicago, the more the acquisition cost to me actually seems pretty fair. He's the only show in town right now for the Bears. There is some intrigue with Kyle Monangai. Hard to get fired up about Roschon Johnson at this point, but the point is the Bears had opportunities to upgrade that position in the draft, in free agency if they wanted to. They could have brought in Nick Chubb or J.K. Dobbins or Rico Dowdle. They chose not to do so. Look, maybe that move is still coming. Maybe they'll be the Brian Robinson team by the time this video comes out. Who knows? Ben Johnson, of course, did have DeAndre Swift in Detroit for a few years. That's part of the case against DeAndre Swift. Didn't exactly light it up for the Lions. He was mostly a letdown during that time. He was splitting carries with Jamal Williams. But if Ben Johnson was truly out on DeAndre Swift, he wouldn't be the Bears starting running back right now. I think they would have found a way to remedy that over the offseason. In terms of talent, DeAndre Swift, maybe relatively capped. Feels like we kind of know who he is at this point. I'm not sure a massive breakout is coming at this point in his career. But if the Bears offense clicks to the degree that it could under Ben Johnson, there's simply value in just being the starting running back in a Ben Johnson offense. Again, maybe we see more Monangai, maybe we see Roschon Johnson mixing in. I think that's a fair expectation based on how Ben Johnson used his two running backs in Detroit. But I also think we see a significant leap forward for Chicago in terms of just offensive competency. The Bears were 31st in third down conversion rate last year, dead last in red zone trips. I'm not saying I'm penciling them in for 11 or 12 wins, not going that far, but it's sure as hell not going to be as bad as it was last year under Shane Waldron and Matt Eberflus. So to me, figuring out the mix at wide receiver for the Bears, that's the more difficult task. But until something happens, DeAndre Swift is someone I want to get shares of before we reach the start of the season. We'll finish out our list of FOMO players with another receiver, a rookie for the Green Bay Packers, Matthew Golden. So early in draft season, Jayden Reed was my favorite among a complicated, to say the least, group of pass catchers for the Green Bay Packers. But with Reed dealing with a foot injury, Golden seemingly pumping out highlight plays every single day in training camp, we've now seen the rookie overtake Jayden Reed by a good margin if you look at updated ADP. At the new price, Golden is certainly more of a risk, but to me, that's why he's a perfect FOMO guy. In the last week at the NFFC, he's going around pick 80 overall and quite a bit higher in some drafts. Less than a month ago, we're talking like 3 weeks ago, he was going 25 to 30 picks later. So I feel like I missed out on the buying opportunity for Matthew Golden. We have to keep in mind, he was never a target hog in college. He doesn't necessarily have the frame of one of those elite ball winning, no doubt number one type of receivers. But with the way the Packers depth chart is shaping up right now, there's going to be a massive opportunity for Golden to assert himself right away. Jayden Reed is yet to return to practice. Matt LaFleur said earlier this month that his week one status could be in jeopardy. We'll see. Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Savion Williams have all been banged up in camp. Christian Watson is out until week 8, week 9 at the absolute minimum. The Packers are going to need Matthew Golden to get involved early and often if they want to get off to a decent start. I'm still willing to invest at the current price, partially because he's grouped among a bunch of wide receivers with some pretty obvious red flags, but he is a major FOMO guy for me. I wish I would have snapped him up in round 9, round 10 a month ago.